8 days away from the first set of CFP committee rankings coming out. However, there's always controversy that comes with that. Here at Cornfield Sports Pod, we're coming out to you with the better set of rankings. We've put together our own committee, and we're going to reveal our top 25 here at the Cornfield Sports Pod. And here's how we're going to do this. We are going to go 25 through 16, and then we will reveal number 1 through number 15. We will reveal our top 5 conference champions that will align with those rankings, and that will be our rankings show. This has been put together by a poll of 7 people, myself, Blake, and 5 others. And without further ado, at number 25, Vanderbilt got a couple wins. They more than normal. Win over Alabama. Still looks good. Not quite as good as it did before, but it's there. Number 24, Missouri. They are looking okay. Not as good as one of a Missouri fan might hope. Brady Cook potentially injured here. Luther Burden not quite living up to expectations coming into the season, but that is where you are at Mizzou at number 24. At number 23, we've got the midshipmen of Navy. Currently undefeated. Haven't played very many people. They don't really have a whole lot to write home about yet. We'll see what they keep doing as they march through the American Athletic Conference. Similar situation at number 22. We have the Army Black Knights. Again, haven't played a whole lot of anybody just yet. We'll see what happens as they march through the American Athletic Conference. The interesting piece with these two teams, though, is that now that they are both in the American Athletic, we could potentially see a conference championship between Army and Navy as undefeateds before they play their regular season game, and the final college football playoff rankings would come out before the regular season Army-Navy game, which is played after conference championship week. So in theory, these two teams could make it to the AAC Conference Championship undefeated. Winner could potentially get into the college football playoff. And then you could have the other team win in the regular season Army-Navy game the very next week. So this could put the committee into a whole world of chaos in the very first year of the 12-team college football playoff. At number 21, we've got SMU. They've played decently thus far in a weak ACC. Not the strongest record. Certainly not enough to get them higher up in the rankings. As it stands right now. Illinois is the next team here on our slate. They've been fairly successful thus far in the Big Ten. They walked right through their conference slate, their non-conference slate, excuse me. And that's about all for them. Ole Miss at 19. Needless to say, this is a disappointment for Ole Miss. Potential favorite for the SEC entering the season, and almost certainly not going to be competing for an SEC title now at this point in the year with their losses. At 18, Pitt have not played a particularly strong strength of schedule, but they are undefeated, which is more than any other ACC team outside of Miami can say. At number 17, Texas A&M. Texas A&M currently has that loss to Notre Dame from the very beginning of the season. After that, they have not lost. They have actually looked like a very solid team, and they are currently, alongside LSU, who we'll get to in a little bit, front runners for the SEC title game, which could give them a fast track to the college football playoff. And at number 16, our highest ranked G5 team, the Boise State Broncos. They have the one close loss to Oregon at the start of the year. And aside from that, Ashton Genty has been beating everybody else that they've played pretty much by himself. And the rest of the Boise State team hasn't been that bad to go alongside of him. So that is where 25 through 16 stand. Now, let's take a look at our top 15 teams here. To no one's surprise right now, should be Oregon at number 1. They were a unanimous number 1 rank in our poll here. They were sitting at 2 in every poll last week. With Texas losing, they slide up to number 1. Second in our poll here, the Georgia Bulldogs. They climb up to number 2 after defeating the Texas Longhorns. They do still have that loss to the Alabama Crimson Tide, who we will get to later. But that is where the Georgia Bulldogs, led by Carson Beck and Trevor Etienne, are sitting right now. At number 3, the undefeated Penn State Nittany Lions. They have yet to play a Power 5 team that is more serious in West Virginia. They've played a weaker conference slate thus far. It will heat up for them here in the back half of the season. So we'll see how well this top ranking holds. But they have been looking like a playoff caliber team thus far. Number 4, Ohio State. Their lone loss is to the top-ranked Oregon Ducks. They are a quality team. Blew the doors off of a team out east that is well known for having top-quality defenses. I would not be shocked if the Buckeyes did not lose again for the rest of the regular season and were able to avenge their loss to the Ducks at Lucas Oil Stadium in the Big Ten Championship and claim potentially even the top seed in the college football playoff when that rolls around. At number 5, they drop down from number 1 after the loss to Georgia. It is the Texas Longhorns. They got exposed. They threw a lot of trash on the field. Wasn't a good look for the folks in Austin last week. But I think it was a worse look for the crowd than it was for the team. Losing to Georgia is not a terrible loss. Losing by double digits doesn't really help your case. You can't make quality loss argument now. But They are the number 5 team as it sits right now. Aside from that Georgia game, they have looked nearly flawless. At number 6, the Miami Hurricanes. Currently undefeated in the ACC. Cam Ward is looking like a Heisman candidate, probably a New York tripper. I don't think he's going to win it with Ashton Genty doing what he's doing over in Boise. But the Canes are competing right now. They've survived close games, and good teams can pull it out when it matters. Speaking of pulling it out when it matters, at number 7, the Tennessee Volunteers, who just handed Alabama their second loss of the year. And the smoke from the cigars was rising over Neyland on Saturday. Made for some gorgeous pictures. Tennessee's got to get their offense figured out, though. Nico Iamaleava needs to work on his accuracy and his decision-making a little bit. Dylan Sampson is looking like a absolutely fantastic running back right now, though. He is carrying the weight of that offense, and the Tennessee defense has been stout, and they are firmly in a position to earn a playoff spot now with that win against Alabama, and with a win against Georgia later this season could be looking at a spot in the SEC title game. At number 8, undefeated, our Iowa State Cyclones. Narrow game against UCF last week. Was this the Gus Malzahn road game in October? I don't think they have another road game in October. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I believe they are at the Bounce House, though, next week. So Gus Malzahn did not get that weird road win, but he sure got close at Jack Trice Stadium. Nonetheless, though, the Cyclones were able to hold them off behind the arm and legs of Rocco Becht, despite the best efforts of UCF running back R.J. Harvey, who absolutely carved up Iowa State's defense and is currently about the only guy to do that. At number 9, the LSU Tigers. They do have that one loss to, I believe it was to USC. Aside from that, they have looked solid. Their defense looks a lot better than it did last year. Nussmeier has looked a little bit questionable at times, but for the most part, he has been reliable. So LSU sits there at that 9 spot. At the 10 spot, BYU. Cougars. Nearly identical situation to what the Cyclones had. Mere 24 hours, actually slightly less than 24 hours beforehand. It was an after dark game on Friday night. They won the game by the exact same score against the Oklahoma State Cowboys. They ran into the exact same kind of situation where instead of R.J. Harvey running all over their defense, it was Ollie Gordon running all over their defense. But nonetheless, BYU found a way to survive on a last-second drive engineered by their quarterback, Jake Retzlaff. So for the leaders in the Big 12, it was about clutch quarter play at the very end of the game and surviving to stay undefeated. At number 11, Clemson. 6-1. 6-1. I keep seeing this argument from their fan base that they should be ranked ahead of Iowa State and BYU for strength of schedule reasons. But the problem is it doesn't matter how strong the opponents on your schedule are if they boat race you. You might have scheduled Georgia, yes. you also lost by a lot to Georgia. That game does not improve your resume in any sense whatsoever, Clemson. You do not deserve to be ahead of Iowa State or BYU for this. At number 12, Indiana. That's how the poll shook out. I think the same argument that I just made about Clemson being behind Iowa State and BYU very easily could be made about Indiana as well, especially after Indiana just absolutely steamrolled Nebraska. But Indiana is our team at number 12. And with the top G5 conference champion being 16th ranked Boise State, that means Indiana is the first team on the outside looking in of the college football playoff. Next team on the outside looking in, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They still have that loss to Northern Illinois, and it is going to continue to hurt them as the year goes on. Their win against Texas A&M is looking better and better and helping to improve their resume. As Army and Navy continue to win, and Notre Dame has upcoming games against them, they will have chances to improve their resume. But until that point, Notre Dame has not earned a spot within the top teams in order to get into the college football playoff field. At number 14, our third Big 12 team in the field, the Kansas State Wildcats. Y'all know me, I'm a Cyclone. Hurts me to say that. Hurts me to watch them be in the field. I am not a K-State fan. But nonetheless, one loss, and it was not a bad loss. So, Kansas State climbing the field and potentially looking at a spot in the Big 12 title game if they can get a little bit of help from one of Iowa State or BYU's opponents, or if they potentially were to beat Iowa State in Farmageddon. As of right now, Kansas State does in fact control its own destiny. And at number 15, I've mentioned them a few times in other teams' games, the Alabama Crimson Tide. They are a 2-loss team now, one of which was not a terrible loss to Tennessee at Neyland Stadium, rivalry game, crazy things happen. The other one was to Vanderbilt, which is the SEC team that you go on the road to and you still have more of your own fans there. So that one's just going to be a drag for Alabama for the remainder of the season. If they have any other hiccups at all, there will be almost no chance at all of them making the college football playoff field. If they do manage to win out, they could potentially get in as an at-large team. I don't see a path to the SEC championship game for the Crimson Tide at this point with 2 conference losses. And that will do it for today's ranking show. I do want to thank the folks who participated in our ranking committee. You can find them on Twitter at Turney Taman, at Jay Modernach, at ATX Caleb, at Devious Duck, and at Clone Guy 69. That will be all for today's episode of Cornfield Sports Pod Rankings.